Welcome to my show. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to New Earth. We're coming to the returning to a certain timeline, we'll put it. Humans don't know what's going on. They're lost in translation, born into a reality of confusion and ignorance. So I'm going to drop some knowledge on this stuff here. I have a map I want to show Americans, show some people, so people can understand what timeline they're on, because it's confusing for people. You can speak on the end times, or speak on Babylon is falling, or anything, but it doesn't mean that it's understood, because they have manipulated history and the frequency of Mother Earth, but not anymore. She has returned back to her beauty, back to the frequency of what it once was before the invasion, before the fall out of the tree. And all of this has to do with the old world, what was here before you were born, what was here many moons ago, the stuff that's in your heart, in your fairy tale, in your memory of what heaven used to be like, of what Mother Earth used to be like. But one's not able to understand until they tap into the frequency of what it is of rebuilding Mother Earth, because there's so much that comes along with it. It's not just taking back the power, it's taking back the symbolism, the frequencies, the alchemy, the numerology, the sacred geometry, taking back the circles and the squares and the triangles, because that's what Mother Earth is. Mother Earth is not built on manipulated spoken frequency like the English language, where people really don't have a clue, because Mother Earth is created by just frequency, love. And it takes many souls to create her. It takes many goddesses to create her, and all of her sisters who are all part of her. So we're going to get into this map. I'm going to get into this little bit of history. I'm going to break down America a little bit. Turtle Island, land of the plumed serpent, land of the rainbow dragon, land of the Hopi prophecy. Because we're dragons. We are everything that comes out of the medicine wheel. We are everything that comes out of all the animals, the spirit animals, the sacred animals. So we're going to touch base here. We're going to jump timelines away from this picture, and we're going to step into this map. Okay, we'll zoom in here. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll just break down these lines a little bit. So here on the up in the northeast, you have the First Nation line, okay? And then running down the east coast, where these temples are, where is the Acadian line, okay? Then over here, we have the Kachina line, okay? Up here, we have the Serpent line, okay? So you see these lines here, the Kachina line, the Serpent line, this First Nation line, on how they all cross the mound. They all come into the center of the Great Lakes. And then you can see here the Great Lakes and the symbolism up here, okay? And then we have the Akira grid, and then we have the Bermuda Triangle, okay? Lots of circles, lots of triangles. And then we have, you have everything that took place over the generations, over the years. So, but I'm going to touch base here on the East Coast because everything starts on the East Coast. We know of the invasion, okay? We know what had happened all down on the East Coast and everything. Pirates of the Caribbean, the slaughter of the people, the invasion, the Aztecs, the Mayans going south, and everything like that. There's people know of, like, we'll go the ley lines, which aren't on this map. 33rd parallel, and then we have a 40th parallel. 33rd, everyone knows of the Bible Belt. The 40th parallel, people really don't know too much about that one. But this is the old world. This is the first piece of land out of the ocean. The first piece of land being these up here in Canada, the mountains, the Great Lakes, and then the eastern or the western part of Pennsylvania being the first mountains out of the water. There's a reasoning why people come, the symbolism of Philadelphia and everything over here. So we had a war, you're going to go back into time. You got to put it this way. Everything you know of across the pond, temples, Egypt, Israel, it's all manipulation of what was here once before. When you take it back to the grassroots and think of the beginning of creation, and that everything was pure, everything was beautiful. To build a temple, to build pyramids, you needed to understand sacred geometry. You needed to have the alchemy, you needed to have the frequencies, you needed to have the water, the mercury, okay, the key element, mercury, salt, and sulfur. So the story that they're telling the people today is that everything originated over there. In true reality, what they did was they took everything from America and put it over there. That stuff the pyramids, the Sphinx, they're not the original. Okay. To get into something, you must study it. They studied the teachings. They stole Hermes' teachings. They manipulated the teachings. They manipulated the water, the mercury, which came into the temple. So you go back to the Aztecs, you go back to the Mayans, you go back to the Maya and the water and the sacred waters of everything. There's a reason why they're called blueprints, because they're blue, and it's all, everything outside of the sacred water, like in what we do today, is a reflection of creation, of what happens within the sacred waters of creation, within God's kingdom, within the, and so you have sacred geometry, you have everything that is created from Mother Earth, crystals, diamonds, everything like that. But the storyline of history and ancient history has been stolen and manipulated. So you take back, you think of the Masons and the Illuminati and all this bullshit that they created over here on the East Coast. The Masonic stuff, the Illuminati, it's a manipulation of, it's a manipulation of the teachings of the temple. Let's say Judah and the Scottish Rite in Ireland, and the magic of the temple, because this is the connection with the lion, and you have the symbolism of Britain, I guess, and over there where it's the lion, it's the unicorn, and it's the dragon. Okay. When you think of the lion, people automatically think of Judah. Okay. Or you think of Rastafari. Okay. Now that's the other part of this stuff on the East Coast here, of these black Irish who say they come from Ireland. That's all the manipulation when you speak on like Jamaica and Bob Marley, them singing about Babylon and stuff like that. There's deep manipulation within everything. And so what happened was, everyone's living in peace and this and that, but the invasion came. But when you're looking on the East Coast and you look at what was here before, you got Atlantis on the East Coast and you got Lemuria on the West Coast. And you would have, let's say, this piece of land in the middle and whatever it be. In true reality, Philadelphia is a portal. This is why they have always used this area as in for Tesla and, Mason-Dixon line and, everything that comes along with what this area is. Valley Forge and the wars and Ben Franklin and George Washington and City Hall and, it's William Penn, Declaration of Independence, it's blah, blah, blah. There's so much stuff here because people truly don't know what was here, because like I said, they stole everything and shipped it all across the pond and saying that that's the first piece, that's all the stuff. But so when you're in America, and America being the first land, it comes down to the frequency of the land was manipulated. Gaia was manipulated. So you have all the people here, and they, you had the battles, you had the wars, and you had, original tribes. And there were a lot of different shades to these original tribes. And this land over here, when they said, that Atlantis fell and stuff like that, a lot of people were destroyed. Some people, they fell to the east, because what truly happened here, all this shit over here, all this stuff, DC, Delaware, Philadelphia, all this stuff here is old land of Atlantis. And outside of Philadelphia, you have the volcano that once was on Atlantis. So there's a lot of confusion, because we're not able to understand what took place, a long time ago. But with all of the information that has come out with the gentleman that I know of, Cremero, who has a lot of books and stuff, everything that lions and everything originated from America, because this is the first land. So you would have the East Coast being the tribe of Judah, and what it is here in Pennsylvania, because everyone knows about the mound and about the serpent mound, but people don't understand spiritually what it is. Yeah, you can say it because you see it on the surface, but people don't understand and they can't comprehend. So there's no knowledge, there's no wisdom, you can't see what the ancient ones saw. And so there should be a Sphinx in Pennsylvania, okay? Because when you're this whole thing of this stuff here, all this ancient history that you know of, that all the battles and stuff, and the mounds, but that's as far as you know. You don't know what was truly here when it comes to, there's this whole Tartaria thing, but the kingdom, because there's a kingdom on the land, but here on the East Coast, this is Turtle Island. So if this being one piece of land, being a turtle flying around in the universe, there's a cliff on the East Coast. There's a cliff all the way around it. Okay? Because we're one with the universe. We have the same water that is out there in the universe. Okay? This is everything being cleaned up. Because we've come back to the truth of what America is, what the land is. And the frequency of Mother Earth has risen. Pistis Sophia, the Gnostic, the knowledge, the Logos, because this is paradise. They, and what is happening today, of what you see, of what's taking place on the East Coast with New York, with them bringing all the people in from down here, okay? This is the shit, okay? What we have, okay, we have the Kachina. People have heard of red Kachina, blue Kachina. They said that the ancients saw it coming over in America, but people don't understand what took place down in the South Pacific. The Kachina came because China at the time had like almost 1,000 ships. China was sending out their ships to come to the west coast of America to overtake America. But what they were trying to do was, what they needed to do was they needed to map. They needed to map their locations because they were so far away. They needed to find a certain point in the South Pacific Sea to map themselves to America to connect themselves to the Four Corners, which would connect them to the mounds, which would connect them to the Mason-Dixon line, because they were coming from the east. They came from the east. The battle happened here. Tribe of Judah, tribe of Dan on the mound, Phoenicians, tribe of Levi, the bird, gold, green, and red. Something special up here in the Northwest. Okay? Something very special in the Northwest. But see, this Kachina came, blew China out of the water. This is why it took them so long to rebuild. It's like they went into the darkness because they just ran in, this whole thing that came out of Asia. And so the Kachina came, blew them out of the water. And this whole thing, people don't really understand what is taking place here. So we're coming back into the frequencies of Mother Earth, Gaia. This is it. So this is understanding what's under your feet. This is understanding the porthole from one realm to another. Because they have taken everything. They have copied everything. And they've left you with nothing. No elders, no ancestors, no ancient stuff, no frequency of what Mother Earth is. But we're coming back into that power, because this is the return of the dragons. This is the return of the symbolism, the frequencies, by gaining our power through our symbols. Because people have forgotten their sun cross. They've forgotten their medicine wheel. They have forgotten what is sacred, even though they talk about it. The individual person and their teachings have been removed from their soul because of the water of memory being removed. The mercury, which came up through the temples, which bubbled underneath the temples. The water stopped. The iron shield came down. The iron shield around Gaia fell. And they gained access to the feminine, to the Nordic ones, because the storyline of the goddesses isn't just in Ireland. It's not just across the pond. It's here on the land, because this line here from Philadelphia to San Francisco is the Ouroboros. It's the 40 years in the forest. Because if you have a serpent mound here, and you have tribe of Judah and lions in Pennsylvania, you have to go through the lion before you get into the serpent. So you literally go into the mouth of the lion, because the symbolism out here, outside of the temple, we're going to put it, because you have the crystals in the ocean, in the Gulf of Mexico, and then you have crystals up here, pyramids. There's a rainbow that connects these two crystal pyramids. There's a rainbow and there's a curtain of water, okay, over the Mississippi. Outside of this temple and this pyramid, because on the one land within Mother Earth of what it was back beforehand, you have the Merkaba, sacred geometry, the gnosis of the egg, and the serpent are wrapped around it. But what happened over here on the East Coast with the cataclysms, because the opening into the Ouroboros, the opening into Mother Earth, where the serpent or the dragon bites his own tail, is here on the East Coast. They must travel. See, they fell. So if you fell, you went east. So they were attempting to come back. So they, the battles, and so you have all this stuff here on the East Coast, which in true reality, spiritually, it's a cliff. And everything outside of this land never existed. The only reason that it exists is because of the flood, the water, the earthquakes, the cataclysms. Because we have the West. We have the West. Everybody has been traveling west. And we have ran out of space. We ran out of time. We ran out of land. Because the pagans been running for a long time. So if you see this First Nation line running across, and how it goes out to Hawaii, you have this whole thing of, the Pleiadians up here in the northwest and Mount Shasta and stuff like that. There's a lot of people involved in this light working stuff, holding down their light, holding down the grid. But there's not many who can see within all of the realms that have taken place over all these timelines, because that's what this is. We have fixed the Mayan calendar. We've fixed the Mayan calendar, and the Mayan calendar having to do with the Pleiadians, having to do with Buddha's eightfolded path, having to do with every timeline that you know of, okay? So we have all of these timelines. We have biblical times, we have Egypt, we have the Nordic times, Asia, Mayan, Aztec, all this stuff, Native American, all this stuff. So all within the DNA, all within these timelines, some being good, some being bad. We had to go through them all and clean them up. We had to clean them up. And so that's what's been going on these past couple of years of the 1776 Pluto returning, because we had to clean up all the history that was attempting to come forward type deal. But, we kind of went, like I said, we ran into this wall out here, in California. There's nowhere else to run. So we had to turn around spiritually. Look what took place behind us, in all this ancient history, and go through all the timelines of ancient history. And this past Christmas, going through Saturn, going through certain frequencies, to rid rid the demons from, their worshiping of, what came out of Egypt, what came out of Saturn, and all of this stuff that people really don't know because it's just on the surface. But if you get into the frequencies of it all, it's not kosher. And so if there's no frequency, if there's no more manipulated frequency, then we can return back to the rainbow. Because this is the land of the rainbow. This is where the hippies were created. This is where the Grateful Dead was created. But it was shut down because, you got all of these cities, you got, what has happened to the people, the chemtrails, you got all kinds of manipulated stuff. But everything has been taken back. And this is the rise of the goddesses. This is the rise of the dragons, the rise of the unicorns, the rise of everything, the rise of Pistis Sophia. It's been the same thing over and over and over again. So the storylines, let's say like Egypt and Isis and Osiris, like these things have been replaying. There was, just the frequencies of the evil that has attempted to come through because they worship Osiris, and we know what they do here on the East Coast. So when I said a temple, this is a temple. This is Gaia Sophia. This is the entrance into Lemuria. This is the entrance back into Atoria, back into the kingdom. Because they could not just go here. They could not just go down into the Mayan times. They couldn't just go other places because there's only one entrance into the mouth of the Sphinx. And that's past Orion's belt. People know about Orion's belt, but they look over there in Egypt, and then they look up into the stars. You've been told the stars are mapped on the back of Turtle Island. Okay? But which stars? Orion, the Pleiadians, and there's others. But this piece of land goes all the way from up here all the way to Atoria. And people don't understand when you talk on reincarnation and the frequencies of who had to reincarnate for all this to happen. Humans are only human. So this Orion's belt, this entrance into Orion's belt and everything, it's all that symbolism is still here, but it's based in America. And there's only one entrance. So one of my, I had a vision that I was standing out here in Bermuda. And I saw the symbolism outside of the temple, which would be up here in Pennsylvania being, the lion, and then in the center being the, in DC being the obelisk, and then down in Florida being the symbolism of Isis. Okay, people don't understand. They can't comprehend what dimension they are in. Okay, so, and people talk on this higher self and reaching their higher self. But what does it mean when you've had many incarnations? Because there's pieces of you scattered throughout the universe, in all of these timelines. And we have to understand in our mind that when we come back into the oneness, we have to grab hold of our symbols, because the symbols were taken away. And the symbols have everything to do, like Osiris and how he was scattered throughout the world. This is symbolism of the Sun Cross and the Star of David and the Swazi, the blueprints to the temple. That's what Osiris is. And when it comes to DC, nobody's in DC. The only one that is in DC is Osiris, waiting for Isis to return. This is a spiritual thing that nobody can comprehend, because this is what has been protected. This is what has been at stake this whole entire time. And in today's timeline of where we are today, I like to call it they're coming for the temple door. If you look at your movies and you look at like the White Walkers, okay? Like I said, if you look at the North and all this stuff with what they tried to do in history of them trying to get into the North, there's a demonic army coming. This is why they open up the border. There's a demonic army coming. They've been released all around the world. I hope you can see what is taking place, because they have been released around the world. They're coming for the temple door. That's what this is. And so for the people that I know in America, which is very few, but they know who they are, you'll be just fine. But there's going to be situations that are going to take place. This is why they're bringing everybody to New York and Chicago, for the most part. They're not bringing too many to Philly. But you see these lines. So there's this sacred line everybody I know is mainly up here on the 40th parallel. So you have the Pleiadians that are mapped on Turtle Island and go out all the way down. And then you have Grand Teton. The seeds have been planted. The seeds have been planted. The unicorns, the horses, the lions, the dragons, the chariot, all the symbolism has come back. This is the traveling west. This is you standing in the center of your four corners to understand and regain your power. Because this is the timeline we are on. We are on all of these timelines because they are all part of the medicine wheel, all part of the Mayan calendar. So that's just a little rundown here of where we are.